December 1967. Cold air, river below, headlights in a tight line. The bridge hums under the weight of ordinary traffic. A sound like metal tearing runs through the cables. The deck tilts, not slowly, but all at once. Taillights swing toward the water. Then the road disappears. On both banks, the first reaction is silence. Not a dramatic silence, a stunned one. Drivers sit frozen, hands still on the wheel, eyes locked on a gap that should not exist. A second ago there was pavement. Now there is open dark, and river mist rising like breath. Somewhere in the line, someone has a bag of gifts on the passenger seat. Somebody else has a paycheck envelope in a coat pocket. It is late afternoon, the season when the sun seems tired and people want to get home before full dark. They have no warning, no countdown, no final vibration that says stop. The bridge does not bend. It breaks. A shout cuts through, then another. A man runs toward the railing and stops, because the railing is gone. Down below, there are splashes, and then the quiet clink of metal settling. The Ohio River is cold, and it is deep enough to hide a car in seconds. In the water, headlights point the wrong way. Some sink fast, some hang for a moment, caught on torn steel. Every second becomes a choice between freezing and moving. This is the Silver Bridge. It stretches between Point Pleasant in West Virginia and the Ohio shore near Gallipolis. For decades, it carried workers, shoppers, truck drivers, churchgoers, and anyone trying to cross the river without a long detour. It was built in an era when engineers made daring structures with clean lines and tight tolerances. It looked modern when it opened. By 1967, it looked ordinary, like it had always been there and always would be. That assumption is the first crack. A bridge is a promise that the ground will stay where it is. People rarely think about the promise until it fails. They trust steel and rivets the way they trust sunrise. They trust it because they have to. The story of this collapse does not begin in the cold water. It begins years earlier in the shape of the bridge itself. The Silver Bridge was a suspension bridge, but not the kind most people imagine. Instead of thick bundles of many small wires, it used eye-bar chains. Each chain was made of flat steel links with holes at the ends, pinned together like a giant metal bracelet. It was elegant. It was also unforgiving. When a bridge uses many small elements, one element can fail and the others can share the load, at least for a while. With eye-bars, the load is carried through fewer critical pieces. If one major link fails, there is little time to react. Redundancy is not a luxury in structures. It is a survival trait. The Silver Bridge carried a different world than the one it was designed for. Traffic grew heavier over the decades. Vehicles became larger. The bridge still did its job. Day after day, winter after winter, with salt, air, and river moisture creeping into seams. Metal does not complain in words. It complains in pits, in corrosion, in tiny cracks that grow in the dark. Inspections existed, but the country did not yet have the system it has today. There was no uniform national standard for checking every bridge on a schedule. In many places, inspection was limited by time, funding, training, and by what the eye could see. A problem that hides inside a joint can survive every quick look, and that is the warning that gets ignored. Not a single memo, not one loud whistle. A structural warning. A bridge design that depends on a few critical links. A maintenance world that depends on what can be seen. A traffic world that keeps getting heavier. All of it points in one direction. A single small defect can become a disaster. On the day of the collapse, the bridge behaves like it always has. Drivers roll onto it without thinking. The river passes below, black-green, Under winter light, steel members tick and creak, the normal sounds of a working structure. On one end, cars line up for a signal. On the other end, more cars feed into the stream. It is the kind of congestion that feels annoying, not dangerous. The bridge is full. Then, one critical piece fails. A single eye-bar in a suspension chain fractures. In later investigation, that piece would be identified as eye-bar 330. The fracture was not a dramatic tear across a wide plate. It began as a flaw, a small imperfection that grew over years, under stress, under corrosion, under repeated loading. The National Transportation Safety Board would later conclude that the failure involved stress corrosion and corrosion fatigue, working together over the life of the bridge. And that is the part most people struggle to accept. A whole bridge can fall because of one small flaw, but structures are systems. When a key element breaks, the load redistributes instantly. The Silver Bridge did not have the kind of redundancy that could absorb the shock. One chain fails, then the geometry changes, then other members overload. The bridge folds, not like a slow collapse, but like a sudden release. On the roadway, the moment is confusing. Some drivers feel the deck drop and think they hit ice. Some think another vehicle struck them. Then the far end of the road is no longer level. The line of cars becomes a line of falling objects. A person can only process so much in 1 second. By the time minds catch up, gravity has already decided. On the banks, people run. Someone calls the police. Someone calls the fire department. Someone calls a friend on the other side, and the phone line cannot carry the scene. A patrol car arrives and stops hard at the edge. A firefighter looks down and sees a roof, then it vanishes under ripples. There is no time to organize. There is only time to act. Boats push off into the river. Men in heavy coats lean over the side with hooks and ropes. Divers enter water that bites like teeth. They fight currents, cold, and darkness. They search by touch, by instinct, by the shape of twisted steel. Each car they find is a heavy box. Each box might hold a living person, or it might be too late. The river does not offer answers quickly. Above the water, floodlights turn the night into a harsh stage. News spreads. Families gather at the shoreline. Some stare without blinking. Some pray. Some shout names into the wind as if the river can hear. In Point Pleasant, the town does not sleep. It waits. By morning, the scale becomes clear. Vehicles are gone. Lives are gone. The bridge is gone in the place where it mattered most, the span over the main channel. Steel towers still stand, but the roadway between them is missing. It looks impossible, like someone erased the middle of a sentence and left the punctuation. In the days that follow, recovery becomes slow and grim. Wreckage is pulled from the river. Pieces are loaded onto trucks. The smell of wet metal hangs over everything. In a nearby field, investigators lay out sections of the bridge, arranging them like a broken skeleton. They need to see the failure in daylight, to trace the sequence backward, to find the first break. This is where the story becomes technical, and where it becomes even more unsettling. The critical flaw in the eye bar was small. The safety board would describe a cleavage fracture in the eye of the eye bar, a type of brittle failure that can happen when conditions align. The flaw had grown over time, and crucially, it was located in a place that was hard to inspect without taking the joint apart. A bridge can look fine from the outside and still be weakening on the inside. The investigation points to multiple contributing realities. The design concentrated stress in a few main links. The bridge lacked redundancy. The inspection methods of the time were largely visual. The flaw was not easily visible. Traffic loads and daily vibrations kept the stress cycling. Moisture and corrosion helped a crack grow. No single factor tells the full story. Together they make a chain, and the chain breaks where it is weakest. People want a villain. They want a person to blame. But infrastructure failures often do not come with one guilty face. They come from systems that drift, budgets that tighten, standards that lag behind technology, assumptions that stay in place too long. A structure built for one era quietly carries another. Still, the collapse changes something in the country. The loss is public, visible, undeniable. A bridge did not just crack. A bridge dropped a line of ordinary adults into cold water, and it happened on a major route, in active traffic, without a storm, without an earthquake, without sabotage. It happened because a small defect was allowed to grow until it reached a critical size. In Washington, the event becomes an argument for a national program. The next year, the Federal Aid Highway Act initiates a national bridge inspection program. The idea is simple. If bridges age, then inspection must be systematic, not occasional. Standards must exist, not just good intentions. A bridge should not be trusted solely because it has not failed yet. The Federal Highway Administration studies the collapse. Engineers build models, examine the chain system, and formalize lessons. Bridge owners across the country are pushed toward consistent inspections. Records are created. Ratings are assigned. Defects become data points, not rumors. This is the evidence phase of the story. The safety board reports the specific failure mechanism. The Highway Administration documents the policy response. Engineering organizations mark the collapse as a turning point. It is not just a tragedy. It becomes a line in the history of regulation. But for the people near the river, regulation is not the first memory. The first memory is the sound of metal tearing. The first memory is headlights turning toward water. The first memory is a cold wind over the Ohio River, and the idea that an ordinary commute can become a disappearance. In Point Pleasant, the loss enters daily life. A chair at a table stays empty. A job is unfilled. A friend does not return a call. The town carries the weight quietly, because there is no other way. Grief becomes routine. It becomes the background of ordinary days. A new bridge is built later. It looks different. It stands as a replacement and a reminder. But the deeper reminder is invisible. It is the reminder that one overlooked defect can erase certainty. That warning signs are not always loud. Sometimes the warning is just age. Sometimes it is just a design that has no margin when one part fails. Sometimes it is the absence of a system to look closely. This story is not only about one bridge. It is about how a country maintains the promises it built into steel and concrete. When inspection becomes routine, it is easy to treat it as paperwork. When budgets tighten, it is easy to delay repairs. When a bridge looks fine, it is easy to assume it is fine. The Silver Bridge collapse forced the nation to admit something uncomfortable. Not all failures announce themselves. Some hide in a joint, in a crack, in a place you cannot see from the roadway. And when they finally emerge, they do not emerge as a warning. They emerge as a collapse. Today, thousands of bridges carry daily traffic. Some are old. Some were built for lighter loads. Some are repaired, again and again, patched like clothing that is too valuable to throw away. Inspection programs exist now, but they still rely on time, money, and attention. A checklist does not replace judgment. A schedule does not guarantee action. A report does not fix a crack. So the last question is not about 1967. The last question is about the next moment when a bridge seems ordinary, when headlights line up, when the deck hums under weight, when the river moves below, indifferent. What defect is growing in a place no one wants to disassemble? What warning is being treated as tomorrow? What bridge will teach the next lesson? And who will pay for it? Will pay for it?